Now that is a definition of a tale of two halves and how badly we miss Reece James. Chelsea travel to Turf Moor and emerge 4-0 winners. Let's get into it.
And blue is the colour. SCN! Drogba! Lampard! That could be the championship!
Greetings. Welcome back to Couch Critic with me, Dennis P. Forward is another Chelsea match review, more specifically a tactical synopsis of Chelsea's performance at Turf Moor against Burnley. But before I get into all that, fellas, please do me a big favor. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification button if you're a real bad button. And I want to let you guys know about my sponsors. They go by the name of Major League Socks. And fellas, if you ever want to walk in the footsteps of greatness, you know what to do. Hit them up. The link will be in the description. Okay, so Chelsea traveled to Turf Moor to face Burnley and emerged 4-0 winners. Goal scorer is Kai Havertz with a brace. We also saw Reece James return to form, return to the lineup, and bang won the first goal. And of course, we had one from Pulisic as well. It's a bit of a fluxy goal off of Tarkowski, just putting that plate for him. But nonetheless, Chelsea win 4-0. In this matchup, you're going to be focusing on three things as we normally do. We're going to be looking at Chelsea's possession game, their ability to recycle possession, keep possession, and why they're having such a hard time breaking teams down in the final third, despite having oodles of possession, somewhere around 76% in this game. We're also going to be looking at the return of Reece James to the lineup, what he means to us going forward, why he's so important to this club. But I really want to start with the shape. Chelsea came out playing a 3-4-3, but it played quite differently, and we want to get into that right away. Okay, so Chelsea came out in their famed 3-4-3, but I really want to analyze how that played on the pitch. We started obviously with Rudiger, Thiago Silva, and Trevor Chalobah in the center of defense. Surprisingly, we saw Sal Niguez play left wing back, wide midfielder. We're going to get into that. And of course, the return of Reece James in the right wing back role. We also had Pulisic, Mason Mount, and Kai Havertz play the attacking roles. And we had Jorginho and Kanté in the holding roles. Now, the reason why I wanted to talk about this particular shape, because when you look at it on paper, you would think that Chelsea are just playing a traditional 3-4-3, and it just played nothing close to that. Now, obviously, Burnley set up their 4-4-2, and we're in the shape to basically try to frustrate Chelsea, keep Jorginho and Kanté from getting on the ball and running at the defense, in Kanté's case, of course. And it was very effective in the first half, as we all saw, because we just couldn't get Jorginho on the ball no matter what we tried. They basically had Weghorst and Jay Rodriguez pressing our back line, and then in behind them, there was about three midfielders that were basically in and around Kanté and Jorginho, and the outlets just weren't there to get into the second wave. So instead, what Chelsea had to do is play it out from the back line and bypass the midfield, play it more into our attack. There's a little bit more direct. And the problem that we had with that is that we just could not keep the ball effectively. As a result, what they ended up doing is just recycling possession again, looking for openings and whatnot. But what this game really called for and what we could not deliver was when Chelsea played on the switches. So when you have Chalobah on the ball on the right and he's switching it back to the left to where, Sal Niguez had like acres of space. When you see Sal Niguez get on the ball, he just does not possess the pace nor the technique, the dribbling technique to take on a man and like disrupt the back line for Burnley. And so what he'd end up doing is basically rushing, one touch pass, trying to get it inwards to one of Havertz or Pulisic to see if they can do something clever on the ball. And, sometimes when he did it, like when he tried to hit it first time into one of those attackers, it was either a wayward pass or it just gave too much time for the defenders to close on the attackers. And it just basically gave them nowhere to go, with the ball. So you just find that Chelsea were just recycling possession again and again and again and not really trying to make any real inroads in the final third. I mean, for Thomas Tuchel, this shape change, I know people are going to say it's a 3-4-3, but to me, it just did not play like that because we just showed absolutely no respect for Burnley. And we placed it basically with our wingbacks were basically just wide midfielders, trying to connect in the, in around the 40, 50 yard mark and inwards with our attacking midfielders. It didn't really work incredibly well in the first half as, Burnley did break on a few occasions and had acres of space to run into. And on a better day, they probably should have been up 2-0 at least. They didn't take their opportunities, and Chelsea continued to recycle possession, get into the match and whatnot. And then come the second half, that 3-2-4-1 started paying dividends because you start seeing more of Reece James, more of Salah Niguez get further up the pitch. And in Reece James's case, the first goal was credited to the fact that, not only him, but also Nathaniel Chalobah started to get more adventurous and getting a little bit further in the final third. And it put a lot of pressure on Burnley's defense. But Chelsea had somewhere in and around like 76% possession, which means that, there wasn't really a whole lot of defensive responsibility in the game. And when you're playing with three center backs, I mean, especially the likes of Thiago Silva, who, my God, just the best center back in football today. You can't tell me otherwise. He's the best. Reads the game, obviously wins headers, commanding presence, a leader, everything. He exudes class, very nice on the ball, composed. When you have him and Rudiger as your defensive partnership, and then you also have the young Chalobah, who is very aggressive and likes to get tight to his man, you should be able to be more confident in, pushing bodies forward. And, we're starting to see that Thomas Tuchel starting to recognize that a bit more, and we're taking advantage of it. The more this happens, I mean, you can't really rely on this every game, but there's going to be games where you can actually force wide midfielders onto the pitch and use that as a way to create goal scoring opportunities, as we did today. So look for that going forward. Now, for me, Cobham is one of the great academies in world football, but what was always missing from the profile was the ability to develop world-class talent. That, of course, is no longer the case because, ladies and gentlemen, we have Reece James. And wow, what a talent he's developed into. And man, have we missed him the last 2 months. His ability to connect in the final third, his overlapping runs, his crosses, pinpoint crosses into our attackers, his poise, his composure, his ball striking ability, his ability to bully defenders, all of this, attackers as well, all of this, his recognition and transition, all of this are things that we just missed with Reece James. And, man, when he got back in the lineup, did he ever make an immediate impression and showed exactly what we were missing in the final third, in the transition, and in the buildup. Reece James is of that quality. He is, without question, one of the top wingbacks, fullbacks, right-sided midfielders in world football today. He can provide so much. Our entire system is predicated on wingback play. And it's no secret that once we lost Ben Chilwell and Reece James, our play just deteriorated and we couldn't create as many opportunities as we were in the past. These two are incredibly important to what we do. You can just tell it just liberated so many of the attackers because finally we had another guy in wide positions that, knew what to do with the ball, knew when to overlap, knew when to put in the crosses and put them in accurately. And then also just the fact that because Reece James is such a threat in the final third, teams are no longer able to cheat off of our fullbacks, our wingbacks, in order to basically guard and shield our attackers, like the likes of Kai Havertz and Lukaku. We've been seeing that for months now. Teams just cheating off of our wingbacks because, Azpilicueta and Alonso don't necessarily possess the same sort of skill in the final third, the ability to make crosses, the ability to dribble past defenders. So, they're able to cheat off and, focus their attention on our attackers. Can't do that with Reece James. If you try to cheat off Reece James, you see what happens. He'll bang goals, he'll put in that telling cross. Obviously today, dribbles past Dwight McNeil, I believe, and buries it in the corner. That's something that we sorely missed from that right flank. Today, again, he puts in that telling cross into Kai Havertz, who basically didn't have much to do other than just try and get something on it because Reece James put so much pace and accuracy on the ball that all he had to do is just get something on it and it's a goal, but all the work was done by Reece James on that particular goal. This is what we were missing. And, I'm glad he's back in the lineup because it just liberates so many more of our attackers. It liberates our midfield. It gives us another option, another weapon out wide and whatnot. And, you can see, obviously Mason Mount didn't have the best game on the right, but he didn't really play well at all. But the fact that he was kind of muted within the game didn't really impact our overall quality because he had Reece James on the right who was providing, telling balls after telling balls. And this is the difference. You can now compensate for having somebody on the pitch that's not necessarily having their best of days. Obviously, Reece James was my man of the match. He was incredible. He was the guy that was the match winner, and had it not been for him in the final third, we probably wouldn't have had the breakthrough, because it was only after the Reece James scored goal that we were able to, see Burnley come out of their shell a bit, and, gaps open up after that. But credit to Reece James, his ability on the ball, his technique and whatnot was what opened the game, won us the game. And if we can continue on this trajectory with Reece James, I guarantee you, we're going to be speaking with him, the likes of, the Cafus, the Roberto Carloses of the world, because he is of that quality. Obviously, these are players that have, extended well beyond, just world class. These are generational, especially with the case of like Roberto Carlos. But I really do believe that if Reece James continues on this trajectory, he can get to that level, because he just got everything. And that's what it takes to get to that level. Yes, I know we won comfortably, 4-0, Chelsea won, and this might come off a little bit odd just given the fact that we were so dominant in the second half, but it wasn't always like that. And I think that what we're seeing with Chelsea, and have seen repeatedly over and over again, is that despite the fact that we have a lot of possession, we don't really use it very well. We're very good at keeping it and recycling it, but we don't really get it into the feet of people that we really want to make the difference in the final third. It's very much, one touch here and then back to the back line. And I think that problem has been plaguing us a lot. We don't really hurt teams in the final third because we don't really take possession in the final third all that effectively. We don't really have a central midfielder who can get on the ball and pull all the strings in the midfield in that final third. So a lot of the times what we have happen is we swing it out wide and we're just basically throwing in crosses. Of course, I'm not discrediting the fact that we are very good out wide when we have Chilwell and Reece James at full strength and full fitness. But I think when we want to be a possession-based team, if you want to be a possession-based team, you will really have to be really good in the midfield at creating opportunities for your attackers. A lot of our possession, though we have a lot of it, is always, recycled in and around the center backs and the wing backs. And we don't necessarily get it into the likes of Kai Havertz nearly enough. We don't get it into the likes of Pulisic near enough. When they do get on it, it's usually because they've come deep to get on the ball and touch it. But, this is where, you separate us from the likes of, Man City, who have a plethora of central midfielders who are very good on the ball and, have an eye for those types of passes. This is the difference right now. Chelsea, first of all, struggled in the first half to get their central midfielders, Conte and Jorginho, on the ball. But even beyond that, when they did get on the ball, they just don't see the runs. They don't see where to deliver the ball and trust that their attacker, the guy that's receiving the ball, can pick it up in the half space and get on the turn. We usually shy away from taking risky passes into that particular area of the pitch. Maybe it's down to trust. We haven't really developed that trust with our attackers yet to give them the ball and trust that they're going to be able to get on it and do something magical with it. In general, when the game becomes really tight and congested and whatnot, I really think that Chelsea need to take a little bit more risk in their possession and focus less on trying to recycle it, but be a little bit more a little bit more not clinical, I guess that's not really the word I'm looking for, but a little bit more risky in the final third and take a few more chances. I know Thomas Tuchel talked about it in his post-match when he's talking about in the first half, the problems was, we didn't know when to engage in the half spaces and we didn't know when to make the runs to get in behind and stuff like that. And it was evident. It was very evident. That, coupled with the fact that our central midfielders struggled to get onto the ball. But, ultimately what you want to see in the final third is you want to see Chelsea be more decisive down there. You want to see them obviously use the possession better and just be more brave in those areas on the pitch. But lo and behold, we were able to stick in 4 today, so who am I to complain? But I do think I'm going to wrap it up there. Chelsea go up to Turf Moor and emerge 4-0 winners. I mean, there was a time we used to go to Turf Moor and just struggle for results. I mean, there's a scrape by a 1-0 here, just late goals here, and that first half today was very reminiscent of that. They make it very, very hard for you to play football, and we were saved by Reece, saved by Reece James coming back into the side, first start in about 2 months, and he makes all the difference in the final third. As soon as he scores, Burnley have to come out because they need the points, and Chelsea are able to find gaps of space to exploit, but we move. I think we got Norwich next in the midweek, if I'm not mistaken, and this is another opportunity for Chelsea to put some numbers on the board, bang some goals against these guys, 3s and 4s, 4s and 5s. This is what we have to start doing now, finding our form, finding a little bit of consistency in performances, and start, really kicking on, because this is the business end of the season right now. We need to see these performances from our best players, the likes of Reece James, the likes of Kai Havertz, Pulisic, Thiago Silva's and whatnot. So this is the time for that right now, and I'm looking forward to that. I think this is an opportunity for everyone to start rounding into form against Norwich, just to get a little bit more, confidence in your game. Obviously today wasn't really a squeaky clean game. Just overall, I felt like the away support chose the wrong decision about when they decided to honor Roman Abramovic. Obviously, when the moment was when the Ukraine, they were basically saluting the Ukrainians, showing some solidarity there, and you're hearing Roman Abramovic's name. Just wasn't poor taste. I wasn't really a big fan of that, but everyone has their own way of displaying frustration, and maybe that was theirs. But yeah, we move. Obviously, there's a lot of names out there today about ownership and who wants to come in, and I'm just going to tell you this straight up, guys. If their name's in the paper right now, they're talking about wanting to buy Chelsea, chances are it's not going to be them. I don't think that's how it works. It just seems to me like these guys are basically just trying to get their 5 minutes of fame, try and build their profile, get themselves, in the limelight for that hot second. But, only serious bids will be quiet. The serious bids will be the ones that are quiet, and it'll be somebody that we haven't heard of that will end up buying the club, in my opinion. But I think I'm going to wrap it up there. As I said, folks, we got to just keep the blue flag flying high. That's really what it comes down to. I know it's going to be difficult to carry on without Roman, but on the bright side, if anyone comes in, and they're looking at this as an opportunity to make some money, they're definitely going to have to build us a stadium, and that will only help us expand our brand, become a bigger club, and attract better talent to this club as well. So, what to do, guys. Until then, keep the blue flag flying high, and up the Chels. Peace.